All right, so are we going to see Putin at Trump's second inauguration? It's a question on everyone's mind. And guess what? We're diving deep into some fascinating analysis on this very topic. Let me tell you, the history of foreign leaders at these events is, what's a lot more interesting than you might think.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Inviting foreign heads of state to U.S. inaugurations. It's been kind of a long-standing no-no.
A taboo? All right.
Yeah, it's really meant to be, a celebration of American democracy, all about that peaceful transfer of power within the U.S., not really about international relations.
Which makes Trump's approach pretty fascinating, right? He's already kind of bucking tradition. Invites to Xi Jinping, Argentina's, that new firebrand, Javier Milei, and El Salvador's Nayib Bukele.
Oh,
It's like he's sending a message, right, about who he sees as those key players on the global stage.
exactly. Yeah, and that's what makes this whole question about Putin so intriguing. I mean, we've got Trump's America First stance, right? That's been like a cornerstone of his whole presidency. So inviting Putin, I mean, it just seems, well, kind of contradictory on the surface, right?
Yeah.
But then again, maybe he sees it as like the strategic power play,
Yeah.
a way to signal a major shift in foreign policy.
Okay, so a potential contradiction or a calculated risk. What are we hearing from Russia about all this?
Well, the Kremlin's playing it cool, as you might expect.
Right.
Their spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, he confirmed on December 12th that, Putin hasn't received an invitation, but he left the door open, said they haven't ruled anything out.
Oh, very carefully worded.
Oh, yeah.
Classic diplomatic maneuvering. So they're acknowledging, like, the potential benefits of an invite,
Right.
but also, staying wary of getting caught up in any U.S. political drama.
Right.
What are the experts saying about Putin actually being there? What are the chances?
Well, you've provided us with some really interesting expert opinions to consider. Like we've got historian Dr. Emily Greenfield, for example. She emphasizes that inviting someone as controversial as Putin, it would be totally unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's not just like a break from tradition. It's like a huge departure from, any historical parallel.
Unprecedented. That's a strong word. Definitely raises the stakes, don't you think? What other expert opinions are in the analysis?
Well, there's this political analyst, Marcus Trent. He suggests that inviting Putin might be a calculated risk, like a way for Trump to, redefine alliances.
Yeah.
Signal a major shift in U.S. foreign
A
policy.
power move.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so we've got like historical weight on one side, potential political shakeup on the other, and a whole lot of uncertainty in the middle. This is starting to feel like a real geopolitical thriller. But what are the actual tangible consequences? It can't just be about symbolism, can it?
You're absolutely right. This is about way more than optics. This decision, it has real-world implications, particularly in three key areas.
Okay.
U.S.-Russia relations, global alliances, and the domestic political landscape.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me. Let's start with the impact on U.S.-Russia relations. What's at stake there? Well, an invitation to Putin, it could signal a thawing of relations.
Yeah.
It could potentially open doors for like negotiations on critical issues like arms control, trade. There's a chance it could lead to de-escalation.
So like a potential olive branch.
Right.
But wouldn't that be incredibly risky given the current state of affairs? I mean, what makes this potential outreach different from previous attempts?
Oh, that's a great point. It is a high-risk, high-reward scenario. This time, though, the context is unique.
Okay.
Trump's second term, the global power dynamics at play, and the specific issues on the table, they all, contribute to the potential impact.
So uncharted territory, basically. Okay, I can see why this has everyone on edge.
Yeah.
What about the impact on U.S. allies? We know those relationships are already pretty strained.
Right. That's another crucial consideration. Inviting Putin could alienate key allies,
Yes.
especially those in Eastern Europe. They're already wary of Russia's influence.
Yeah.
Think about countries like Poland, the Baltic states. They have deep historical reasons to be, concerned about Russia's intentions.
Yeah.
It could also further strain relations with Ukraine, which, relies heavily on U.S. support in its ongoing conflict with Russia.
Right. Those are some serious potential consequences to consider.
Mhm.
So we've got potential benefits for U.S.-Russia relations, but at the risk of alienating key allies.
Tough balancing act. What about the reaction here at home? I imagine this decision wouldn't exactly unify the
You're
country.
right. Domestically, inviting Putin would almost certainly deepen the existing political divide.
Yeah, so it seems like no matter what Trump decides, there's going to be fallout. It's a decision with no easy answers, that's for sure. So let's walk through the different possibilities here. What are the main scenarios we're looking at?
Well, the analysis you've given us, it outlines three potential outcomes. The first, and perhaps most likely based on history and the current political climate, is that Putin just doesn't get an invitation at all.
Right. This would be the least disruptive option.
Right.
Maintain tradition. Avoid unnecessary controversy, at least on the surface.
Okay, so the safe bet. But wouldn't that also signal that the U.S., isn't really interested in pursuing a reset with Russia,
Yeah.
potentially perpetuating those existing tensions?
Exactly. It would be a missed opportunity to, shift the dynamic
Right.
for better or worse.
Okay, so that's fascinating. So no invitation is one possibility. What if Trump does send that invitation and Putin accepts? What happens then?
Oh, well, that would be a truly historic moment, a complete break from tradition. I mean, imagine the world's attention just laser focused on Washington as Putin arrives for the inauguration.
Wow.
It would be a stage for global diplomacy, raising both hopes for improved relations and fears of, some kind of backroom deal that could undermine U.S. interests.
I can only imagine the security headache that would cause,
Yeah.
having the Russian president on U.S. soil in this climate.
Hmm.
But beyond the logistics, what are the potential benefits and risks of this scenario?
Well, it could open the door to direct negotiations
Yeah.
on those critical issues like
Right.
arms control, cybersecurity, the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Syria.
Right.
It could be a chance to find, common ground, de-escalate those tensions.
So a gamble.
Yeah.
High stakes, high potential rewards, but also high risks. Okay, what about the third scenario? Trump extends the invitation, but Putin declines. Wouldn't that be a major diplomatic snub?
It certainly could be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
It suggests that despite Trump's, apparent overtures, Putin isn't really interested in reciprocating. It could highlight the deep mistrust, the tension between the countries, potentially lead to further escalation.
So even a declined invitation carries a lot of weight, a lot of meaning. Man, this is getting pretty complex. I'm starting to see why this decision is causing such a stir. It's not just about, who shows up at a party.
Right.
It's about the future of U.S.-Russia relations and really the global balance of power.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about the influence of public opinion on all of this. Americans, they're deeply divided when it comes to U.S.-Russia relations. It adds another layer of complexity to Trump's decision-making.
You're right. It's not just about what world leaders think. It's about what the people think, too.
Hmm.
What does public opinion tell us about this situation?
Well, the Pew Research Center, they conducted a poll early December, found 47% of Americans, they oppose closer ties with Russia, while 39% support it, and the remaining 14%, they're undecided.
Oh, wow. Those numbers are pretty close.
Yeah.
It shows how divided the country is on this issue, how sensitive it is. It seems like no matter what Trump does, he's going to face criticism from a significant portion of the population.
That's the reality of leading a nation as polarized as the U.S. This decision, it isn't just about diplomacy and geopolitics. It's about domestic politics, public perception.
This is way more complicated than I initially thought. We've talked about historical context, potential scenarios, geopolitical implications, and public opinion. But I feel like we're just scratching the surface here. There's still so much to unpack.
You're absolutely right. We've laid the groundwork, but there's still a lot more to explore. Last time we kind of set the stage, right? We explored that historical taboo around foreign leaders at inaugurations, and we talked about those potential ripple effects of, Trump breaking from that norm. So now I think it's time to delve into those potential scenarios, the ones that you identified in the analysis you gave us.
Okay, I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty. Let's start with what seems like, the most likely scenario. No invitation for Putin. What would that look like in terms of U.S.-Russia relations?
Well, if Trump decides to stick with tradition, I think it'll be a sign of continuity in U.S. foreign policy. It'll allow the inauguration to just proceed without all the added security and diplomatic complexity that Putin's presence would bring. However, there's also the risk that it perpetuates the existing tensions between the two countries.
So a missed opportunity for dialogue, maybe.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that also avoid those escalating tensions? Seems like a cautious, somewhat passive approach.
Exactly. It's that balancing act again, choosing not to invite Putin. I mean, it might be perceived as a snub in Moscow,
Right.
but it could also, be interpreted as a sign that that the U.S. is prioritizing domestic issues, stability over those foreign policy gambles.
Yeah, that makes sense. Keeps the focus on the peaceful transfer of power within the U.S., right?
Okay.
Which is what inaugurations are traditionally all about. Okay, so let's move on to the scenario where Trump does send that invitation and Putin accepts. And that would be a huge deal, wouldn't it?
Huge. Absolutely. It would be historic, a first. A moment that would capture the whole world's attention. Imagine the media frenzy, the speculation, the analysis. I mean, the inauguration would become a global event with all eyes on Washington.
I can already picture the headlines.
Yeah.
But beyond the spectacle, what would those practical implications be of having Putin at the inauguration?
Well, on a practical level, I mean, it would be a huge security challenge having the Russian president on U.S. soil, especially with, in the current political climate. I mean, it would require an unprecedented level of protection. The Secret Service would be on high alert.
Yeah.
And there'd be a significant risk of protests, disruptions, you name it.
Logistical nightmare, to be honest. But let's say everything goes smoothly on the security front. What then? Wouldn't this be a chance for some real progress in U.S.-Russia relations?
It certainly could be, yeah. It would provide, an opportunity for some direct face-to-face talks.
Yeah.
Between Trump and Putin, potentially leading to progress on key issues like arms control, cybersecurity, there's ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Syria.
So potential win-win. But we've seen attempts at dialogue fail before. I mean, what makes this situation different?
The difference, I think, lies in the context. This is Trump's second term. He's not constrained by those pressures of a first-term agenda anymore or the shadow of the 2016 election. Plus, the global landscape has shifted. The dynamics of power have changed. Both the U.S. and Russia, they might be more willing to find common ground on certain issues.
Interesting. So it seems like there's a lot more at play here than just, the personalities of Trump and Putin. Okay, so we've covered the no invitation scenario and the invitation accepted scenario. What about that third possibility? Trump sends the invitation, but Putin declines.
Oh, that would be fascinating. Full of potential interpretations. It could be seen as a deliberate rejection of Trump's overture, a sign that Putin, he just isn't interested in engaging with the U.S. on Trump's terms. Or it could be a more strategic move on Putin's part.
Strategic? In what sense? Why would Putin, refuse a chance to be on the world stage at such a high-profile event?
Well, Putin, he might be hesitant to appear too eager to engage with Trump, especially given the current political climate here in the U.S.
Yeah.
He might want to avoid, appearing weak or beholden to Trump, or he might just be waiting for a more opportune moment to engage, maybe when he has more leverage or when the domestic situation in the U.S. is more favorable to his interests.
So even a decline invitation, it could be like a calculated move.
Yeah.
Part of a larger strategy. That's fascinating. It seems like every possible outcome is laden with meaning, with potential consequences.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole thing so captivating, right? We're watching this high stakes game of diplomatic chess unfold in real time. And as we mentioned earlier, public opinion, it plays a significant role in this game as well.
Right. We can't forget about the American people and their views on Russia. How might public opinion influence Trump's decision?
Well, remember those Pew Research Center poll numbers we discussed?
Yeah.
47% of Americans, they opposed closer ties with Russia, while 39% supported it. Those numbers, they show us a nation that is deeply divided on this issue.
Right.
And Trump, he has to be aware of that division. He knows that any move he makes regarding Russia, it's going to be met with approval by some and fierce opposition by others.
It's a tightrope walk for sure. He has to consider, the potential impact on his own political standing while also weighing the potential benefits and risks of engaging with Russia. It's a tough position to be in.
It is, and it really highlights that complex interplay between domestic politics and foreign policy. Trump can't just make decisions based on what he believes is best for the U.S.'s relationship with Russia. He has to think about how those decisions will be perceived by the American people,
right.
How they might impact his own political future.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the intricacies of presidential decision making.
Yeah.
It's not just about what happens on the world stage. It's about how those actions play out here at home too. It's a balancing act on multiple levels.
Exactly. And to fully understand this whole situation, I think we need to move, beyond just those potential scenarios and delve into those motivations, the influences that might be shaping Trump's decision. Why is he even, considering breaking with tradition in the first place?
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper. Let's get inside Trump's head. What are the experts saying about his potential motivations, the things that might be influencing his decision?
Well, I think it's important to remember that we're dealing with, a very unconventional president here.
Yeah.
Trump is known for his impulsive nature, his disdain for traditional norms, and his penchant for unpredictability. He's also, a master of media manipulation, right?
Yeah.
He often enjoys keeping people guessing.
So predicting his next move is like trying to read tea leaves.
Pretty much. But we can still look for clues in his past behavior, his statements about Russia, and his broader foreign policy agenda.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's start with his past statements. We know that Trump has he's got a history of praising Putin, right? Expressing admiration for his leadership style.
Yeah.
Does that provide any insight into his thinking?
Well, it definitely suggests a level of personal affinity that's quite unusual, especially considering those historical tensions between the U.S. and Russia. Remember, Trump has repeatedly called Putin a strong leader, and he's even downplayed Russia's interference in the 2016 election, much to the dismay of many in the intelligence community.
Right. That's been a major point of contention throughout his presidency. So a history of positive rhetoric toward Putin. But does that necessarily translate into concrete policy decisions?
That's the big question. We've got to remember that Trump, he's a master of rhetoric. He often uses it, strategically to achieve his goals. His words, they don't always align with his actions. So we can't really take his past praise of Putin as definitive proof that he's willing to prioritize Russia's interests over those of the U.S.
Okay, so past statements, they provide context, but they're not a crystal ball. What about his foreign policy agenda? How does this whole decision about Putin fit into his broader goals on the world stage?
Well, that's a crucial question. Trump's foreign policy, it's been characterized by his America First approach, his skepticism of multilateralism, and his preference for those bilateral deals. He's also shown a willingness to challenge those longstanding alliances and to engage with leaders who are often seen as adversaries by the U.S. establishment.
So a disruptor, a rule breaker, someone who's not afraid to shake things up. But how does Russia fit into that vision?
That's the puzzle we're trying to solve. On the one hand, Russia is a major geopolitical rival with a history of adversarial relations with the U.S. On the other hand, Russia also has those significant resources, influence, and Trump might see an opportunity to strike a deal with Putin that benefits the U.S. Perhaps in terms of trade, energy, even security cooperation.
So, potential partner or persistent rival. It seems like Trump hasn't quite figured out where Russia fits into his foreign policy vision.
That's a fair assessment, and that uncertainty, it makes his decision about the inauguration invitation all the more intriguing. Could be a sign that he's still trying to figure out how to approach Russia, or it could be a deliberate tactic, just keep everyone guessing, maintain that strategic ambiguity.
This is getting more and more complex by the minute. So we've looked at his personality, his past statements, and his foreign policy agenda. Is there anything else that might be influencing his decision?
One final factor to consider is the advice that Trump is getting from his advisors. We know that Trump has a tendency to surround himself with people who agree with him, but he also he values loyalty above all else. This can create a dynamic where advisors are kind of hesitant to challenge his views, even when they disagree.
So like an echo chamber effect. That doesn't sound like a recipe for sound decision making. Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to something as complex as U.S.-Russia relations.
You're right. It's crucial for leaders to have access to a diversity of opinions, perspectives, so they can make those informed choices. But in Trump's case, it's unclear who is truly influencing his thinking on this issue.
So we're back to speculation and educated guesses.
Essentially, yes. But that's part of what makes this, this whole story so compelling. It's a high stakes game of chess with global implications, and we're all trying to decipher the moves.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to the complexities of this whole situation. It's not just about it's not just about one decision. It's about the interplay of history, politics, diplomacy, and even psychology.
Exactly. And to fully understand the situation, to grasp those potential consequences of Trump's decision, no matter what he chooses, I think we need to shift our focus.
Okay.
We need to look at those long-term implications for U.S.-Russia relations, for the global balance of power. We need to discuss the role of public opinion and how it might shape the course of events.
Yeah, wait. This deep dive has been a real eye opener,
Right.
and I'm eager to hear your insights on what the future might hold.
Yeah.
So we spent this whole deep dive, unpacking all those possible scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Putin attending Trump's second inauguration, and man, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it has.
Historical precedent, global power plays. I mean, this whole thing, it started with a simple question, but it's opened up like this whole world of complexity.
It really has.
But now I think it's time to shift gears a bit, right?
Yeah.
Talk about what this all means for the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This isn't just some, one-off event. Whatever Trump decides, it's going to have ripple effects that extend way beyond the inauguration itself. We need to think about those long-term consequences for U.S.-Russia relations, the global balance of power, even the domestic political landscape right here in the U.S.
Okay, I'm ready to look ahead. Let's start with U.S.-Russia relations. We talked about the potential for a thaw, the risks of escalation.
Yeah.
But what does that post-inauguration world actually look like for these two countries?
It's a complex picture. If he just opts for tradition, doesn't invite Putin, it'll likely just result in a continuation of what we're seeing now, that wary standoff, punctuated by those occasional moments of cooperation on specific issues, but always with that undercurrent of mistrust. Think of it as like a frozen conflict, one that could thaw gradually over time, or maybe erupt unexpectedly, depending on events.
So a continuation of the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
but with a heightened awareness of the stakes.
Exactly. And we can't forget about, the role of public opinion here in the U.S. If Trump is seen as like snubbing Putin, well, it could actually bolster his standing among certain segments of the population, right? Those who see Russia as a threat and want to see, a strong stance against them.
Yeah, it's a reminder that those foreign policy decisions always have, those domestic political ramifications.
Oh, absolutely. But let's imagine for a second that Putin does get that invitation and accepts it. How might that, reshape U.S.-Russia relations in the long term?
We talked about, the potential for negotiations, maybe even some breakthroughs on those key issues.
Yeah.
But couldn't it also backfire and pretty spectacularly?
A high risk, high reward scenario, that's for sure. A successful summit, one that, results in concrete agreements on things like arms control or cybersecurity. Well, that could usher in a whole new era of cooperation and stability between the two countries. Imagine a world where the U.S. and Russia, they actually work together to address global challenges like climate change or terrorism, instead of constantly, undermining each other.
That sounds almost utopian.
Yeah.
But what if things go south?
That's the risk. If those talks break down, if there are, accusations of bad faith or hidden agendas, it could deepen that existing mistrust,
Right.
lead to an even more adversarial relationship, and the whole global community would be watching. Any failure would just be, magnified on the world stage.
So the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
And the consequences, both positive and negative, they'd be amplified.
Yeah, exactly. And we also have to, consider the impact on U.S. allies. Imagine the reaction in Europe, particularly in places like Poland, the Baltic states. If they see Trump cozying up to Putin, I mean, it could undermine NATO, create this sense of uncertainty about the U.S.'s commitment to its allies.
Yeah, that's been a major concern throughout Trump's presidency. That perception that he's willing to prioritize those personal relationships with leaders like Putin over those long-standing alliances.
And those concerns would only, they would only be heightened if Putin is seen as a guest of honor at the inauguration. It sends a powerful signal about who Trump sees as a key partner on the world stage.
It's amazing how one decision, one event can have such far-reaching implications. It's like a domino effect, the pieces falling in these unpredictable ways.
That's global politics for you. It's a complex system, interconnected actors, shifting alliances, that constant push and pull between cooperation and competition.
So we've talked about that long-term impact on U.S.-Russia relations and the potential ripple effects for U.S. allies. But what about the impact here at home? How might this decision shape the domestic political landscape?
That's another crucial aspect to consider. Remember, we're talking about a deeply divided nation here, strong opinions on both sides of that U.S.-Russia issue. Whatever Trump decides, it's going to fuel those divisions, potentially lead to further polarization.
It seems like there's no way for him to avoid controversy on this one.
That's the reality of leading in this hyperpartisan environment. If he chooses to invite Putin, his critics, they'll accuse him of being a puppet of the Kremlin, selling out American interests, emboldening a dictator. I mean, it could lead to calls for impeachment or further investigations into his ties to Russia.
And if he doesn't invite Putin,
He'll get hit with criticism from the other side. Those who see Russia as a potential partner believe that that dialogue is the best way to address those challenges in the relationship. They might see it as a missed opportunity, a sign of weakness,
yeah.
or a capitulation to those hawkish elements in the U.S. foreign policy establishment.
So no matter what he does, he's gonna alienate a big chunk of the population.
That's the political dilemma he's facing, and it highlights the importance of informed public discourse on these issues. We need to move beyond those simplistic narratives of good guys and bad guys, and actually engage with the complexities of U.S.-Russia relations in a nuanced and in thoughtful way.
That's where shows like The Deep Dive come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping people understand the intricacies of these issues, encouraging them to think critically about the information they're consuming.
Absolutely, we need to move beyond those headlines, the sound bites, and really delve into the historical context, stories that shape these events.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. It's shown me that there are no easy answers when it comes to U.S.-Russia relations, and that every decision, every action, it has potential consequences that extend way beyond the immediate moment.
Well said. And as we continue to follow this story, we need to remember that the future it isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make, the actions we take, and the conversations we have.
So what's your final takeaway for our listeners? What should they be paying attention to as this story unfolds?
I would just encourage everyone to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Don't just accept the narratives that are being presented. Dig deeper, ask questions, challenge assumptions. The future of U.S.-Russia relations, and really the future of global peace and security, it depends on our willingness to engage with these complex issues in a thoughtful and an informed way.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a truly enlightening experience.
The pleasure was all mine. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.